Hi everyone, thanks you for being here. So I introduce myself. I'm Christophe Cluzel, Head of Digital Marketing at Radio-Canada. So I want to thank Entertain AI for this opportunity to share our experiences, to discuss with other people with different approaches, needs, and create a community. Apologize for not being able to be physically with you, but video conferences are really the best way to teleportation today. So we choose to stay home. So I'm here as a moderator, and this is clearly not my job. Apologize. So please be kind. I will do my best. We have 30 minutes together to talk about how artificial intelligence and chatbot can help the journalistic approach. So today we have two use cases. The first one is about chatbots and disinformation. On stage, we have Daniel and Alexis. So Daniel has been a journalist at Radio-Canada since 2011. He joined the digital news innovation team in 2020, where he works on projects that are illustrated, interactive, or supported by other data visualization. And we have Alexis Delancer, is the host of Decrypteur, a weekly TV program entirely dedicated to the phenomena of disinformation, and the host of a daily news podcast called Ça s'explique. He started his career as a reporter in 2004 and has since worked in all kinds of contexts, including as an anchor for ici RDI, live news coverage, and as host for Radio-Canada coverage for the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro or Pyeongchang. So, Alexis, perhaps you can give us the context of the project of disinformation, and after Daniel could explain how it works. So, Daniel, Alexis.
I don't think we can hear you, Alexis. Did you unmute yourself or?
Oh, sorry. Now it is.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, let's start again. So I'm Alexis Delancer, host of the TV program, weekly TV program, as Christophe said, called Decrypteur. We're a small team, about 4 reporters. Our mandate basically is to help our viewers identify misinformation and disinformation on social media and on internet as a whole. And by the way, when I say disinformation, I mostly refer to false information that is deliberately created and spread in order to influence public opinion or disguise, I would say, a fact or set of facts. And when I say misinformation, I refer to false or misleading informations that are being unwittingly spread without the clear intention of deceiving. All right. So coming back to our aim, our objective as a team, it is mainly to try to give our viewers all the tools they need to understand this information, the disinformation ecosystem, and the mechanisms that allow this information to emerge, grow, and potentially harm our societies. Of course, disinformation has deep roots in history. It's not new. It's far from being a recent phenomenon, but the internet era, and mostly since the advent of social media, our societies have witnessed a very confusing transformation of mass communications, of traditional means of mass communication, giving birth to a dangerous, how would I put it? Well, the post-factual stage we're in right now, I think that one of the most fundamental dangers we're facing is the slow but steady decline of faith in our institutions and in the social contract that binds us together. I'm talking here about echo chambers, polarization, tribalism. All this contributes to the construction of belief systems somehow disconnected from reality as we know it. That is, this is in part what led to the January 6, 2021 violent assault on on the U.S. Capitol by thousands of people believing the baseless claim that the last U.S. presidential election has been stolen. And actually, the same method is being employed right now at this very moment in Brazil, with false rumors of rigged elections that are being spread ahead of the October presidential election. And I could go on and on with similar examples, and many of them well outside the political landscape, because this information can be related to every aspect of our daily lives. And as we saw, with the disinformation stemming from the pandemic, if it can amplify significantly and rapidly all kinds of distortions of the public debate. In short, what worries me the most, I would say, is the fact that it's becoming simply increasingly difficult to differentiate between what's true and what's false. And ambiguity, the lack of clear answers, are fertile grounds for disinformation. And what is at stake is our democracy, social peace, uh, both reached through decades and centuries of consensus building. And we noticed that precisely uh, what's precisely also worrying many of our viewers. We've been receiving thousands and thousands of emails in the past 3 years from people looking for answers and clarifications on stuff they see on social media. And I talk here about people from all walks of life. This clearly, to me, shows that despite Facebook, Twitter, and Google's efforts to stop the constant flow of disinformation, the problem remains. Not only that, in recent years, on many occasions, in many countries, this flow of disinformation is accompanied by the growth of hate speech. It actually goes hand in hand with it. Last October, we all remember this trove of internal documents that showed how Facebook overlooked many regions of the world, fueling hate speech in India, Ethiopia, Myanmar, which clearly demonstrates that there is a very thin line between violence online and real world harm. Now, what are the solutions? Well, I'd like to know them all, of course. Some say AI, artificial intelligence, is at the center of this perfect storm. It is actually, I think, simultaneously part of the problem and part of the solution. AI is increasingly used to fast check posts on social media, to detect bots involved in massive disinformation operations, to detect deepfakes as well. Some critics say we're fighting this disinformation crafted by AI by using more AI, which is, some say, a mistake. It could be, I don't know, only time will tell, I think. But I do know some solutions are effective, and this is where our chatbot enters the stage. Danielle will give shortly more details on our chatbot itself, but I just wanted to first to describe the context in which it has been created.
Mhm.
Through the years, we received many emails from teachers asking us for specific tools and techniques that they could use to teach their students how to identify disinformation and misinformation. And since we firmly believe that the battle against disinformation should start in schools at an early age, the idea of a chatbot as a pedagogical tool came up. And this tool is far from being strictly aimed at kids, teenagers, and young adults. I think it is useful for anyone, since we all are susceptible to becoming victims of disinformation, partly because of what we call the cognitive biases that are in us, rooted in our brains since our prehistoric ancestors. Um, they are, I think, among the main culprits. Of course, there are many, 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 many other reasons, but the thing is, regardless of your education, educational background or social status, we are all potential victims of disinformation, or potential spreaders of disinformation. So, in conclusion, the first step, I think, towards effective means to tackle disinformation is to be aware that it affects that affects us all. No one is above this, and that is a matter of defending the foundations of our democracies. And this chatbot is our small contribution to this whole problem. And I'll let now Danielle explain with more details what is this chatbot, what are his functions, and how we thought about this project and made sure it could live a long life, hopefully.
Well, thank you, Alexis. As you just said, there was really a need for teachers to have access to material to talk about this information with students. And at the time, I remember everyone wanted the decryptor. Hey, can you, come give a conference to my school, my congress? They could have visited every classroom of the province. But working on a TV show, writing articles on a daily basis, there was just no time to do that. And the pandemic happened also in 2020. So it was not just impossible to reach students in the classroom. So we had to think of a new way to reach them. And we knew we already had so much material that we could use. So we got thinking about a chatbot. And I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with that technology. Media were using it on Facebook, on Messenger. Some still are. I know at Radio-Canada, we are not really using it anymore. But it was a way to engage with the audience, and some companies as well are still using chatbot on messengers for contact purposes, or even on their website as a way to help clients navigate through a website. It's not really how we are using our chatbot. First of all, I need to specify that we are using an external technology, so everyone can use it. There is a more basic version, but the one we are using allows us more personalization with some programming. And so we use it as a way to make workshops interactive and as a tool for students, but as Alexis said, to everybody. So everybody can use it to learn about this information. It's not really how a chatbot is supposed to be used, but for us, it works great. We almost use it as a quiz, a way to let people choose how the conversation goes, like a book in which you are the hero. We say that in French. I don't know if it's the correct term in English, but let me just show you how it looks. So here we go. It's our chatbot. The first challenge was to summarize almost, more than a year of content in a dozen workshops that you can see just here. And the writing is different as well. I was speaking through Alexis, who is just here, the avatar, the face of our bot. The language is more colorful. He makes jokes. He asks people questions. He guides people through the entire experience. Makes them look at pictures, at video. So I think we really found a fun way to talk about this information, to make people participate in their learning. And you can do it at your own pace, at home, in the subway, basically everywhere. Another challenge, though, was writing in French. We needed a gender to ensure the grammatical cohesion of the conversation. We chose as well to be familiar instead of formal in the way we address people. And we ask their name at some point during the conversation. That allows us to be more to create a more personalized experience and make people feel connected or more, engaged to the conversation. So if I can come back here, all right. So, I guess what I'm most excited about is that 2 years after the launch, people are still using it. Hundreds of people are going through the workshops every week, students in Quebec, people in France. We receive emails almost every week from people using our chatbot. And, there are thousands, even more than that, articles available on the internet. And sometimes you can read articles published 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ago, and you know it's in the past. But doing the workshops, even if they were published, like I said, almost 2 years ago, I always have the feeling that it's happening now, because it's like a conversation. I make choices, the conversation is ongoing. So this is why we updated it just before launching. With example, about the pandemic, we added a workshop on politics last year to be sure to make it as current as possible. And we have we have a balance of timeless examples that serves the demonstration and more actual ones that we need to update sometimes. And we are currently working on a new update for September's. And I'm really excited to maintain it as long as we can, because I get the feeling that it has now a kind of a purpose. It educates people on this information at a time we kind of need it.
Thank you so much, Daniel and Alexis. Yes, it's a very useful tool to help to engage conversation, and it's really great that the people continue to use it. And I think it's part of the mandate of Radio-Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Daniel, Alexis, and it was really quick, but I think the audience can go on the on the chatbot right now and use it. I think it's the best way to understand how it works. So I say goodbye, Daniel and Alexis, and now we are going to another subject with another team. So Nael and Isabelle, they used artificial intelligence to measure Canada's urban sprawl. So Nael is a senior data producer, interactives and visualization for CBC News. He specializes in data-driven analysis and investigations. With Isabelle, who joined Radio-Canada in 2021 as a data scientist in the innovation team. She earned a master's degree in computer engineering from Polytechnique Montréal, and she specializes in machine learning and remote sensing problems. So Nael will explain to us why he chooses to mix data analysis, machine learning, and journalism. And after, Isabelle will explain us the tool and the collaboration with Ivado.
Well, first, thank you very much for this invitation. It's great to be here and to talk to millions of people, I'm sure. So thank you very much. So journalism and AI. In the media industry, when we talk about machine learning, it's often to keep users on a platform or a website with maybe a recommendation engine. The Globe and Mail, for example, uses an algorithm to pick which stories should be on the main page of their website and which shouldn't. Some tools have also been created to monitor social media and detect if something newsworthy is happening in real time. This is all very interesting use, but I'm a journalist. My job is to ask questions and to search for answers. So my needs are a little bit different. And I'm interested in machine learning to produce actual journalistic content. So the story that you're seeing on the screen is a story that we published with Isabelle. And what we wanted to do, our question was, we wanted to quantify the urban sprawl in Canadian cities in the last 20 years. But while doing a bit of research and talking to experts, we couldn't find any up-to-date maps of urban areas in Canada. No data existed that we could actually use for our analysis going from 2000 to 2021. Actually, the data was there. We had access to satellite imagery, but the problem with the satellite imagery is that we didn't know where the urban areas were. We needed to look at the pictures and identify urban areas almost by hand. So the data was there, the data was structured, but not with the structure that we needed for our analysis. And this happens very often for journalists. We have this information, but we actually need to restructure this information. We need to classify this information. And if you know a little bit about machine learning, you know that machine learning algorithms are very good to classify stuff. And this is why we decided to use machine learning to identify urban areas from the sky. Basically, we classified pixels into two categories, urban and non-urban. Isabelle was the big brain behind the training of the algorithm, and she will talk about that in a few minutes. But if we go back to journalism, as I said, journalism is about asking questions and finding answers. So machine learning, as a journalist, in my opinion, is very useful when you need to classify huge volumes of information, like pixels for the whole country. In our case, we needed to classify pixels, but it could have been documents, text, documents, sounds, videos. This is what journalists do all the time. We spend our day listening to something, watching something, reading something. We classify this in our head, and then we publish a story with our conclusions. So classification for me is really what is the most interesting part of AI for journalists. Of course, machine learning algorithms are able to make predictions. They can generate information, but this is not very useful or interesting for me from a journalistic perspective, because as journalists, we work on facts. We don't try to predict the future. We don't make up information. We work with what's available now. And in our societies, we're producing so much data now that we need to classify it, and machine learning algorithms can help with that. But there's a lot of challenges when using AI. And we realized that while working on our story on urban sprawl. The biggest one is probably the uncertainty around the results. As I said before, journalists work on facts. We hate uncertainty. But machine learning is all about probabilities. Is this an urban pixel? Maybe, maybe not. There's a 90% chance that it is. So when we produced our first maps, the first thing that we did was to zoom in as much as we could. And of course, we found some errors. Of course, the results weren't perfect. But the real question was, are the results good enough? When you work on billion of pixels, if it's good 90% of the time, 95% of the time, is this enough to have a trend that is true? So building trust in our results was a huge challenge. It's really hard for journalists to accept that your work have a margin of error. We are not used to that. And there's a lot of work right now in the data journalism community about how can we talk about uncertainty in news stories, and how could we show that in our data visualizations. So I'm very proud of the work we did on urban sprawl, of course, but in future stories, I think it's something that we could improve, how to talk about uncertainty. We have published all of our code, all of our methodology. This is good for experts. They will understand the uncertainty around our results, even if all the trends are true. But I think that we still need to improve how we tell this to the general public, even if it complexifies a little bit the story we need to tell. So just as a closing note, machine learning is a wonderful tool to classify information from a journalistic perspective. I'm sure I will reuse it for my next projects. And if you are interested to collaborate, or if you have interesting data, feel free to reach me. I'm easy to find. There's not a lot of Nael Shiab on the web. And now I will just let Isabelle talk about how we actually did it. And again, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Nael. And so in the very few minutes that we have left, I'm gonna try to dive a bit more in the technical details behind the project, so you at least get a good overview of the work we did. And so the methodology is available at the end of the report that we publish, just like every methodology every report that we publish. And it's very important to do so for us in order to be transparent. So in this project, our goal was to demonstrate and quantify the scale of urban sprawl across Canada. And we wanted to conduct the study over the 10 largest Canadian cities in terms of population. To demonstrate the scale of urban sprawl, what we looked at is publicly available satellite imagery, a specific data set called Landsat-7. So what I'm showing here on the screen, by the way, is the methodology itself. It's a lot, so I'm gonna skip many parts, but you're free to go and consult more the details. So here what I'm showing is a zoom in on the north shore of Montreal. It's one of the Landsat image, and as you can see, it's partially built. The green area would be non-urban, and the red area would be urban. And if we were to manually define urban and non-urban areas, not only the task would be completely boring, but it would also take us a very long time to do so. And so this is where machine learning comes in. We did train a machine learning model to identify pixel by pixel urban and non-urban areas. To do so, we used a map produced by Natural Resources Canada. This is a map where every pixel is classified as urban or something else. In our case, we only use the urban pixels. And we wanted to train our model on these data. This data is only available for 2015, but to measure urban sprawl, we needed to predict those maps from 2000 to 2020 to cover a 20 years period. And this is what we did using a classic machine learning model called random forest to classify each pixel as urban or non-urban. Here, this is what the prediction looks like. So as you can see, Nael mentioned it, our predictions are not perfect. There's a bit of uncertainty, but it does look like you can recognize that it's the island of Montreal, for those of you who are familiar with Montreal, of course. And so having those maps for each year between 2000 and 2020, we were able to visually identify the newly built areas, but also to quantify how many square kilometers that represents. And we were able to do it not only for Montreal, but we were able to do it for the 10 largest cities across Canada with only one model. And so these results were also very useful for us because once we had this, we could cross-reference them with the Canadian census in order to draw a picture of the population and their habits in the newly built area compared with the older one. And we were able to draw some conclusions on how people would commute differently and just live differently in general. And so in this situation, machine learning really helped us leverage publicly available data to inform the population about the reality of urban sprawl in Canada. And yes, we did know about urban sprawl before, but thanks to ML, we were able to quantify the phenomenon across Canada. In conclusion, I would say that in ML in general, and in this project is no exception. The biggest challenge is always to find the right data to solve our problem. Here, we had to not only leverage the publicly available satellite images, but also the Canadian census and land cover data. And so thank you for listening. Again, our methodology is published online, so you can have a look and reach out if you have any question.
Thank you so much, Nael and Isabelle. So yes, everything is available online. it's quite strange because we don't know if there are someone in the room or other people watching. So thank you everyone for being here with us today. Enjoy other conferences, and thank you for the invitation. So have a nice day. Thank you. Bye.